Um, so welcome to this event. It's part of the postgraduate week in psychology. It's week because it's just a bit over a week. Um, so I'm the chair of our department's recruitment and public engagement. So I deal with undergraduate and postgraduate recruitment and also the events we have with schools and engaging with the general public. That's why I'm here. So we're in the second event now in our week, which is an introduction to doing a PhD in psychology. And so for this, we have Margriet Groen joining us, who's the director of postgraduate research in our department. And she deals with applications from postgraduate PhD students and also looks after them once they're in our department. So I'm going to start by just giving a general introduction to the department, some of which you'll have already heard if you heard the general introduction. So sorry for the repetition. If you're watching this on a recording, you can just skip ahead. And then Margriet will give you some of the unique information regarding how to apply for a PhD, why you might want to do a PhD, and so on. Okay, so this is our core postgraduate team. Oh, I have to fix this in terms of bringing everyone in one by one. If you're doing a PhD in psychology at Lancaster, then two of the really important people are up there in the top left of the screen. That's Claire and Nadine, who are in our postgraduate office here in psychology at Lancaster. And they're available all the time to support you, answer any questions you have about your PhD and how it's going and so on. And the other key person, of course, is Margriet, the bottom left, and in real life in the room here as director of the postgraduate research students in the department. But all these other people you'll come into contact with as a postgraduate student in Lancaster University in psychology, not just the master's, sorry about the title there, but also in terms of PhD. So in terms of our facilities, it's a really good place to do PhD level research because in the most recent assessment of our research in the department, we were 100% rated as internationally excellent or world leading in terms of the research that we conduct and the research environment that we provide. And in particular, we have our own building, which is just for research and training. And our PhD students use these facilities all the time. And so in this building, we house our specialist equipment for conducting the very latest contemporary studies in psychology. So we have neurophysiological equipment and cognitive equipment to enable really precise, detailed investigations of brain responses and people's responses to all sorts of different situations and stimuli. So, for example, we have several EEG setups, electroencephalography. We have a functional near-infrared spectroscopy system. We have transcranial magnetic stimulation, and all these are different methods for investigating brain activity in response to different stimuli, and also trying to identify which part of the brain is involved in processing different stimuli by temporarily switching it off using TMS. We have TDS as well, transcranial direct stimulation. We try and increase the activity of parts of the brain just under the skull where you're activating it. We have virtual reality lab, one of the best in the country, and lots of eye tracking facilities as well, which are all available to our PhD students as part of their research. And if you're particularly interested in developmental research, then we have some of the best facilities in country, in the world perhaps, for child testing from infants up to toddlerhood in particular, but also we test children up to adolescence as well in these labs. So this picture shows, if I move, it still seems to drop out. Okay, I better just face forward. The building there is our research building, research and training, important for training you as a PhD student in our department. The ground floor is the infant and child testing labs, and the top floor is the adult testing labs. And the bottom picture, just shouldn't move at all, it drops out. The bottom picture is our lab, is the entrance for our infant and child testing labs, which makes our child participants and their parents really comfortable for conducting and taking part in our research. And we also have full-time support within this lab for helping in recruitment and the procedures of working with children. So these are all good reasons for doing a PhD here at Lancaster in psychology. In terms of our research strengths, so in the department, we cover a whole range of different subdisciplines of psychology, and this is arranged around 4 principal themes. So one theme is language and cognition, and that's kind of these leaves in yellow. We have social processes as well, these themes in red. Infancy and early development at the bottom, those green leaves, and perception and action, the leaves over on the left of this. And we also engage with lots of national, international, and within university different organizations for our research. And this becomes more and more important as you build up your skills as a PhD student, to be able to interact with people in the department, outside the department, in the university, to pick up more skills and more different techniques that are available, and also position yourself nationally and internationally in terms of your research profile. For that, as you know, Lancaster University is one of the top universities in the UK, but also internationally as well, especially for one of the newer universities in the UK. And in terms of our department, this chart here shows all the different collaborations we have currently active with researchers in different countries. And as a PhD student, you would connect with those collaborations of your supervisor and their research group, with opportunities for travel or collaboration with people in different cultures, countries. So for example, we have lots of connections with researchers in North America, throughout Europe, nearly every country in Europe, Central and Southern Africa, few people in South America, and lots of collaborations with Australasia and East Asian countries as well. So very important part of the research culture of our department, and the kind of diversity that we like to promote and see in our population of PhD students as well. So that's the general introduction to the department. I'll pass over now to Marguerite, who will talk a bit more in detail about the process of applying for a PhD. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. I think there's some sort of magic touch to this. Let's see how we go. So my name is Margriet Groen, and I will be talking a little bit about how to apply for a PhD, as Patrick said. This will be relatively specific to Lancaster universities, but of course, lots of the information is applicable to applying elsewhere as well. So the first question, I guess, is why do people apply for a PhD, and why do people want to complete a PhD? And I think most people, it's probably fair to say that most people start out with the idea of continuing in academia, pursuing an academic career. But as you can see, kind of on this slide, there are lots of other kind of destinations where people with a PhD end up, whether that is in various kind of governmental bodies or policy advisor kind of roles in industry. There's lots of opportunities basically. So I wanted to highlight this because sometimes people think like, oh well, academia might not be really for me, but I quite like doing research, and even then it might be worth applying for a PhD because it's not an unusual kind of scenario to end up outside of academia when you do complete a PhD. Is this better? Okay. Yes. I'll try that. Good. So completing a PhD is really all about acquiring skills. So at the end of it, you're meant to be an independent researcher, and there is a huge focus on skills development. And these range from kind of problem solving and decision making to project management, and of course the kind of more research, the things that you might associate with research in more commonly, like data analysis and data collection. And then there is the whole communication and presentation part, as well as, and that's in kind of oral presentations, but also written work in various kind of forms. Of course, the kind of the scientific papers, your thesis, but also for a more general public. So lots of skill, you acquire lots of skills, and you leave a PhD with skills that are really very much transferable to all kinds of careers. And as I said, very generally, these are within academia, but also in research roles in government, industry, and in kind of science communication type roles, to just name a few. And there's others as well. Now then, more kind of what would we consider important motivations of people themselves, and what are we looking for in a PhD student? So I think it is important to be highly passionate about your subject. It is important that you enjoy doing research, that you kind of enjoy being in the academic environment and contributing to knowledge and educating others. And kind of things that people name as good things about doing a PhD is they see it as a stepping stone in their career, but also as a kind of a way to earn a higher wage, or kind of enter certain companies at a higher level than you would with a master degree. Other things they often mention as something positive about it is the networking and travel opportunities, and the freedom and the flexibility that you have with it, in terms of managing your own time and the freedom to kind of focus on a subject and on a question that is of interest to you. So who are we looking for? All of these things on the slides kind of regularly enter the conversation when we talk about who to award a PhD studentship to. So critical thinking, creativity on the one hand, but also kind of persistence and resilience, important qualities in a PhD student, similar discipline as well. All that freedom and flexibility does come with kind of the other side of the coin, that you do have to kind of be intrinsically motivated and quite disciplined in managing your own time. And then, yeah, we're looking for people who kind of have a real curiosity about a particular aspect of psychology and want to pursue a kind of in-depth three-year project on that topic. And then, as you see, communication, really important part of it. You know, you with communication with your supervisors, with other people in the department, with participants, and maybe other interest groups, etc., and that again builds a relevant network for later career choices, but also very important skills. Okay, so how do you go about finding a PhD position or studentship? Now, there's, broadly speaking, kind of three routes to that, and I'll kind of talk you through each one. So the first one that is kind of outlined on this slide is that you apply to a specific post on an existing project. So a member of staff, an academic, will have written a grant proposal. They will have been awarded a grant, and now they need to find a PhD student to kind of work on that grant. So because the project has already been defined, that means that a lot about the project has been decided, although there was always some scope for your kind of specific or independent contribution, but at least the outlines of the project are well defined. So if you are not currently overflowing with ideas of your own and then know exactly what you want to do a PhD on, this might be a very useful and good kind of route to take. If I guess the difficulty with the project already being defined is that if you do have to be genuinely interested in it, because otherwise it's going to be a very long and hard 3 years. And yeah, so it might take a little bit of searching to find a project that you feel really fits with your interests. So let's just go back to that. I often get questions about how do you find these and when are they advertised? These kinds of posts are advertised throughout the year because it basically depends when a member of staff gets a grant awarded and then they need to kind of employ a PhD student relatively soon. So there might be slightly more opportunities around kind of an October and maybe a January start, but overall things can come up throughout the year. So at the end of this presentation, there is a slide with various links to places to look for where these things are advertised. And yeah, we can share the slides so that you can have access to those links as well. Okay, the second route is through a doctoral training partnership. So Lancaster is part of the Northwest Social Sciences Doctoral Training Partnership, which is an ESRC-funded partnership. That also involves the University of Manchester, the University of Liverpool, and Keele University. Psychology is kind of an important pathway within that doctoral training partnership. And if you are interested in applying for a studentship like this, then you are meant to work with a potential supervisor to develop your own proposal. So this suits people who have kind of ideas about what they would like to research in their PhD and might already have a little bit of research experience as well, and kind of with a bit of input from a potential supervisor would be able to write a research proposal that kind of outlines a suitable project. So generally you have more input into what the project is about than when you apply to an existing post or a post on an existing project. It is very competitive. People who apply for these things often have first-class degrees, masters with distinctions, some other research experience, etc., etc. Now, that might sound a little bit daunting, you know, but I would say if you're interested in this, then don't think it's not for you. Do come and talk to us and say, okay, this is my profile. What do you think? What, particularly if you're a second year student, or if you're a third year student, and there's always different ways to kind of build your profile to become competitive. So the deadline for this is usually the beginning of February, so it's just kind of about to come up. And it is important to kind of contact a potential supervisor well in advance so that they have an opportunity to help you develop your ideas into a suitable research proposal. And then the third route is what is called a case studentship. This is also part of the Northwest Social Science Doctoral Training Program, but it involves a partner institution from outside the higher education sector. So that can be a charity or a company or local government, but kind of a third party that is meaningfully involved in the project. And these projects are kind of, for that reason, often more applied. either the supervisor or a kind of an academic can apply for a case studentship. So then they define the project. If they get it awarded, they will then advertise it as a kind of a studentship that is available. Or the student could be leading in it and write their own proposal with the involvement of kind of a third partner institution, as well as a potential supervisor. So this is really kind of, yeah, there's two options here. Now, where to look if you are, if you're interested in exploring options for a PhD, then kind of the links on this site are all relevant. And on, for instance, so we advertise all the studentships and all the projects that are available in the department on our website under the kind of the PhD tab. More generally, there is jobs.ac.uk and findaphd.com. And there's, in particular on findaphd.com, there's also kind of more general information about how to go about these things. Now, another important thing to realize is that it is very valuable to talk to potential supervisors about your interests and about your kind of the direction you want to take your career in. Because if they are aware that you are interested in a PhD in a particular area, then they are often very willing and happy to kind of alert you to various opportunities that come along. Okay, so this is kind of just from an advert. Still okay? It's a bit lower. Yes. Okay. This is just an example of kind of an advertised project from a project in the department that was kind of advertised a little while ago. So this was looking for somebody who is motivated, ambitious, able to demonstrate an interest in the advertised PhD area. They were expected somebody to hold at least an upper second honors degree, having or expected to gain a master's qualification, and having some other research experience would also be an advantage. Now, this is pretty typical for what you see in a lot of kind of advertised projects. It is not obligatory to have a master's degree to be able to do a PhD, but it is often quite tough to compete with all the others, a large proportion of whom might well have a master's degree. So if you don't have one, then, as I say, it's not impossible, but it is, it helps. And then you kind of also see the mention there of other research experience, and I'll come to that in a minute. I should also say that for the studentships in the Northwest Social Science Doctoral Training Partnership, so both the case studentship and the other kind of the standard studentship, there's also the option of doing a 1+3, which basically means that you apply for as a kind of undergraduate, you apply for a master's and a PhD. So and both are then funded. So that if you already have a master's, you would apply for a kind of what is called a +3. Okay, so let's have a look at kind of what we look for in people who are applying for a PhD, and it basically we look at the academic profile and at the research proposal. So when it comes to the academic profile, your degree results at undergraduate and master level are clearly relevant. Now, if you happen to, there might be some reason why you didn't do as well in your undergraduate, but then did very well in your master's, or the other way around. If that is the case, then the panels who do the shortlisting for these kind of things are very aware that there are multiple routes into kind of academia and through undergraduate and master degrees. So the best thing to do is probably just to mention that or explain some of it. Then many of the PhD students who get studentships awarded do have kind of additional research experience. So that is in addition to a 3 or 4 kind of undergraduate research project or and a master's project that you do anyway. So the PEP scheme that we have in the department is a very good option to gain that kind of additional research experience. If you haven't done a PEP placement in a lab yet, you're kind of a 3rd-year student, and you think like, well, when am I going to do this? There are also summer internships and bursaries. There is one within the university that is kind of linked to a widening participation scheme, but various kind of scholarly societies, such as the Experimental Psychology Society, the Wellcome Trust, and the International Conference for Infant Studies, ICES. They're just 3 examples of societies who have undergraduate bursaries. So if you're a 2nd-year student, you could apply to an EPS undergraduate bursary, and that would provide some a stipend to do a project over the summer between your 2nd and your 3rd year. And the EPS new graduate bursary is the same thing, but kind of after you've graduated. The Wellcome Trust Biomedical Vacation Scholarship is a little bit more biologically minded, so but is relevant to lots of different areas in psychology. And actually, people who are now PhD students in the department have held some of these scholarships before. And yeah, the ICES Founding Generation Summer Fellowship for undergraduates is just another example of such a scheme. A lot of it works slightly different to the other ones because the projects have already been defined. A lot of the mentors seem to be in America, but others are in various places in Europe as well. So certainly worth checking out if you're interested in developmental work. Now, I'm sure there are other schemes in kind of other areas of psychology that might be relevant in this regard. So this is another reason to speak to potential supervisors who will be aware of the kind of the bursaries and the scholarship schemes in societies that are directly related to their area of expertise. Keep in mind that deadlines for these are often in February and March. So yeah, if you are interested in any of those things, looking at it now is basically the thing to do. Now, a third way to gain additional research experience is through paid casual research assistant positions. So those are positions where you're kind of paid by the hour for a fixed number of hours on a particular project in the department, and they are usually advertised via the Moodle pages. So yeah, keep an eye out for those. Now, in my experience, people often start with a PEP placement and then might move on to some internship and then end up having a better chance of kind of getting a paid research assistant position. But of course, there is all kinds of things are possible. Now, other things that are that we look for in the academic profile is relevant experience that might be outside of academia. So if you are applying for a position on a project that works with kind of older adults, then experience of interacting with older adults outside of kind of university, maybe through some voluntary work, is highly relevant. So that all counts. Publications are listed there as a potential thing that might contribute to the academic profile. It is by no means obligatory to have publications as an undergraduate to apply for a PhD position. If you have an opportunity to contribute to a publication through some of the research experience that you gain, that is certainly a good thing to do. Okay, and then there is the research proposal. So this is relevant for the standard studentship and for the case studentship. Not so much if you apply for a position on an existing project. So what we look for in the research proposal is whether it can be supervised in the department, which is why it is why it's important to talk to potential supervisors in the department and make sure that is they feel they can supervise that. And then we look at whether the project kind of asks a relevant and important question, and the kind of the studies that are outlined in the proposal make up a PhD's worth of research. And then anything that is particularly novel or robust or stands out in another way would also kind of help in increasing the way we kind of evaluate the research proposal. Now, in the department, we do kind of subscribe to the open science principles that you might have come across at various points during your undergraduate. So any open science principles that can be built into your research proposal will certainly be looked at positively. There is lots of information about writing a proposal online. This is a screenshot from the kind of general university, so Lancaster University website. But there is also some guidance from the Northwest Social Science Doctoral Training Partnership. And underneath these links, there is also kind of more information from how do you take your research idea and kind of transform it into a research project. And as I said, it's really important to get some input from a potential supervisor, because it's not so easy to kind of write such a proposal all on your own. It should be your idea. It should be your kind of original contribution, but a potential supervisor can kind of advise on whether it is too big or too small, or how to make it more feasible, can discuss various things that might need to be addressed as potential pitfalls, etc. Yes, some more useful links that we will share when we share this presentation, these present slides with you. And let's see what else. That is not my slide, so I think that is then kind of the end of my part.
Okay, thanks. Don't go away.
No.
Yeah. Just if there are any questions from the room. Yeah.
It probably varies quite a lot throughout doctoral program, but do you think it would ever be worth, after you finished your master's, having like a year or more out to do such experience, or do you think during your previous degrees, you think you have enough time to fit in enough research?
That's a really good question, and basically we see both. It's students who are successful kind of at these in these competitions. Some will have done the first scenario that you sketched out, kind of use a year after you've completed your master's to gain additional research experience. That's often kind of a paid position, maybe as some sort of lab manager kind of role. Highly valuable, because it basically gives academics the confidence that you know how research kind of is conducted, and are able to do a lot of those kind of project management and things, and et cetera. So it's definitely something that is a very good option. We also see people come through who take that other route and kind of have gained research experience throughout their undergraduate and possibly throughout their masters, and then so both is definitely possible. And yeah, there's multiple routes to that kind of starting point, so to say.
If I can just add to that, I think, quite a lot of our students pursue multiple possible routes at the same time, and then whichever one works first is the one that they go with. So some students apply for a PhD and also apply for other placements or other experience. And if they're not successful in getting funding, for instance, for their PhD that first time, then they can take on an offered placement. So, if you are interested in a PhD, then there's no problem in submitting an application and getting that into a process of discussion. I think we would really encourage that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, I guess. Any other questions or comments? Or any comments, questions online?
There are none come through online, but there've been some problems in posting questions, I think, online. So if you are joining us online or watching this at a later date, then please do send us an email, get in touch with us, and we can answer any questions you have. There's no such thing as a silly question about this. So yeah, please do. But I've got a question for you, Marguerite. Well, have you here?
Yes.
So why did you do a PhD?
Why did I do a PhD? Yeah, I was just really curious about how children learn language, and I really wanted to kind of figure that out. Naively, I thought I could figure that out while doing a PhD. While doing the PhD, I discovered that I was only gonna contribute a little piece of the puzzle in that sense. But yeah, it was enjoying research and curiosity that really drove me to do a PhD. What about you, Patrick?
Well, I know we're not completely representative of
No.
the people who do PhDs, because we went on to academia and yeah, PhD students go into all sorts of different things. But yeah, I was really interested in a problem. I did a master's and wasn't quite sure about PhD, so it took a year out to work, relating to that question, just to have that period of reflection. And then I took on a PhD because I was really interested as a student and then as a teacher about why some people found maths really, really hard and other people just found it completely easy. So mathematical concepts or statistics just came completely effortlessly to them. So I thought, oh, well, there must be some sort of psychological basis to this. So I was trained, it was a sort of journey of self-discovery about why I was okay at maths, but not great, and why some people were really amazing at it and other people found it really, really hard. So yeah, I was very interested in that question and fortunate enough to find a supervisor who agreed it was a good question. So.
Good.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for joining us in the room and online and later in the recording. But yeah, as I said, please do get in touch if you have any questions. You can send Marguerite an email. You can contact postgraduate.psychology@lancaster.ac.uk at any point to ask us about the process. Okay, thanks very much.